Hello, I'm Nicholas Amato in PPA 577, Human Resource Management. Our task this week was we were each given a chapter, and I was given chapter one. I broke chapter one up into three segments, which is basically the definition and challenges of a human resource manager or public administrator, tides of reform, and values, ethics, and morals. I decided to kind of go over some things that wasn't really mentioned too much in our previous presentations, so hope you guys enjoy and are able to take something out of this. So first off, definitions and challenges. What do human resource managers deal with? Well, they deal with like the internal processes of the organization. So they deal with employment law, recruiting, selection of employees, position management, creating a positive workspace, compensation, benefits. They deal with anything that has to do with the employee themselves. They can either work direct when they're, for example, when they're doing hiring. The recruitment process may be centralized just through HR, or it actually might include higher levels of management, like if it's a private business CEO. Um, the human resource managers face a lot of challenges nowadays, particularly the changing workforce and downsizing. With the changing workforce, a lot of workers are starting to get older, and the new workers are starting to get younger, especially as the baby boomer generation is starting to reach that retirement age, and millennials and Generation X employees are starting to come in, and these employees um, are a little iffy due to the fact that they um, have a higher chance of changing careers, and so that might kind of throw off the hiring process to an extent. Another issue is the downsizing of government that has been factor over the past 40 years or so. Um, and it's been an issue considering the population growth. One example that I can think of is FEMA, how they were incredibly downsized after the Clinton administration during the Bush years and dissolved into the Department of Homeland Security. Um, so the four tides of reform are scientific management, war on waste, watchful eye, and liberation management. Two of these have a trust in the government, while the other two focus on a distrust in the government. Scientific management is one of those that had a distrust in the government, where Herbert Hoover decided on eliminating overlapping services. The scientific management idea is controlling people through the tick of a clock, basically. Like uh, we kind of went over it with Frederick Taylor, and the idea of management being strict and precise and not making sure nothing went to waste, including time. And so it developed an act of efficiency. And so this can be seen at a macro level or a micro level. So it can be seen within an organization or the grander scheme of the government by eliminating or downsizing certain governments. The war on waste kind of builds on that and really emphasized the idea of the economy. This was during Reagan's administration, and it included increases in internal controls, oversight and regulations, managerial directives, tight supervision, and accountability. Um, this is where you see Weber come in directly and has a big influence on the idea of war on waste. Um, the idea of the war on waste was, especially because Reagan was a conservative, was to really downsize and get cutting the fat off of some of these programs that were being used at the time. Um, so this organization as well saw a distrust in the government. On the other hand, the watchful eye, which is which saw the Ethics Reform Act of 1989 protecting whistleblowers, emphasizes fairness through openness, transparency, and access. So it's the idea that the government or the people of the United States has trust in the public administrators working in all these different branches of government. And when something doesn't go right or something goes wrong, the employees are supposed to report it. It's based on the idea of integrity and having integrity. These reforms made the use of hiring based on sex, age, and race, and also handicap illegal. So when hiring in government, it's completely based on merit as opposed to a spoil system or what the hiring manager deems as right. And then the last main one is the liberation management reform, where you see Mary Parker Follett come into play here. And this came big during Al Gore's vice presidency of Clinton. And it expected a higher performance in government with evaluation, outcome, and results. And they expected these through employee empowerment, re-engineering work teams, and continuous improvement, customer service, and a flat hierarchy. So it was more of a power with us as opposed to a power over, pushing for creativity. And this lack of managerialism and focus on the employees being able to work outside of the box sees a trust in the government. When it comes to hiring within the government, we had the Pendleton Act of 1883, which we've gone over a few times, and which introduced the merit system as opposed to the spoil system, and then the Civil Service Reform Act in 1978, which refined it and made it more concrete within government. So when it comes to working in government, you're expected to have a high standard of values, ethics, and morals. So the first thing to go over is the idea of value consciousness. So this was created by Van Wart in 1998, where there's 3 levels of consciousness when it comes to work. You have the unconscious worker, where this worker probably doesn't belong within this administration or workforce. They're more likely to commit a crime legally or illegally or unknowingly, so they're not sure of the ethic and moral value. You have the elementary value consciousness, where the worker has a baseline understanding. So this is usually the person that just gets hired on the job, and they're willing to conform to the job and make sure that they keep the job due to doing their job right. And then you have advanced consciousness, which is the managers or the people with experience that have no ground of breaking the law. They have no intent to break the law, and they want to see their administration succeed. When it comes to ethics and morals, it is always a double-edged sword depending on the issue at hand. For one example, a nurse who works at a government-owned hospital not giving out birth control because it goes against her religion. So the way to combat this is having a model, exemplary moral leadership, and developing and enforcing a code of ethics that binds everyone to a certain rule that they have to follow no matter what their outside opinion is on the subject. So that is mainly chapter 1, and thank you all for listening. Have a nice weekend.